Alright, let's talk about Dragon Quest VII Reimagined because this version seriously changes how vocations work, and it's way more interesting than the classic system. With moonlighting, your characters can now run two vocations at the same time, which opens the door to some wild combinations if you know what you're doing. On top of that, the new Let Loose perks act like flashy, high-impact limit breaks that can completely swing a fight when used at the right moment. So yeah, picking vocations isn't just a flavor choice anymore, it's one of the most important decisions you'll make while rebuilding the world, island by island. In this video, I'm ranking every single vocation in Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, from the character-specific starter jobs all the way up to the advanced classes that can hard carry your party. Whether you're a longtime fan jumping back in or someone experiencing Dragon Quest VII for the first time, this tier list will help you figure out which vocations truly shine and which ones struggle to keep up. We'll break down how they perform on their own, how they synergize with moonlighting, and which let loose abilities are actually worth building around, so you can put together a party that feels strong, flexible, and just plain fun to play. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking vocations in Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching! The vocations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Jester, Destiny's Dancer, and Chevalier. Let's rip the bandage off and talk about the vocations you only play because the game politely insists you should. This is the part of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined where your party briefly wonders if they made a terrible life choice, because D-tier vocations are not here to help you win, they are here to test your patience and your sense of humor. First up is the Jester, a vocation that seems fun right until you actually use it in combat. The skills are wildly unreliable, the stat penalties are brutal, and most of the time you feel like you are actively sabotaging your own team. Yes, it has silly tricks and occasional surprises, but let's be honest, you are not here to deal damage or survive fights. You are here to grind it out, master it as fast as possible, and unlock the luminary path. Think of Jester as that awkward phase you pretend never happened once you move on. Then we have Destiny's Dancer, which somehow manages to be even less necessary. The characters who can access this vocation already start with levels in much stronger and more practical vocations. So choosing Destiny's Dancer feels like taking a scenic detour straight into mediocrity. It does not offer anything essential, it does not fill a crucial role, and it certainly does not justify the time investment. If you ever find yourself using Destiny's Dancer, it is usually because curiosity got the better of you, not because it was a smart strategic decision. The vocations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Thief, Shepherd, Sailor, Dancer, Troubadour, Mini Mayoress, and Wolf Boy. This is the tier where Dragon Quest VII Reimagined stops being painful and starts being mildly awkward. C-tier vocations are not outright bad, but they definitely feel like stepping stones rather than destinations. You dip your toes in, grab what you need, and politely move on before things get weird. Let's start with the Thief, which lives and dies by your understanding of status ailments. If you know exactly when and how to poison, sleep, or otherwise annoy the enemy, Thief can feel surprisingly strong and even a little clever, but the moment those strategies are not viable, the whole thing falls apart fast. In the right hands and the right fights, it shines. Everywhere else, it feels like homework. Shepherd is actually pretty comfy early on. It works as a hybrid vocation that lets you survive without dragging a priest around in the early game, which is honestly a blessing. When healing is not urgently needed, it can even contribute some respectable offense. The problem is that once your roster and options expand, Shepherd quickly starts feeling like training wheels you forgot to take off. Sailor is a classic case of two amazing tricks, nothing else. Body Slam is fantastic for boss fights, Lightning cleans up random encounters beautifully, and then that is kind of it. You end up pressing the same buttons over and over because there is not much depth beyond those highlights. It does its job, but it never surprises you. Dancer is all style, less substance. The animations are flashy, the idea is fun, but once the novelty wears off, you realize it is outclassed by more advanced support vocations pretty quickly. It works, it helps, but it never feels essential. You master it, nod respectfully, and immediately look for an upgrade. Troubadour suffers from almost the exact same problem. Yes, it has a decent let loose ability, and yes, it can contribute in supportive roles, but it never quite justifies sticking around. It feels like a prototype for better vocations you will unlock later, which makes it hard to stay excited about. Mini Mayoress is a weird one. Before vocations are even unlocked, it has some genuinely useful utility and does its job well enough. But once Vocations enter the picture, Maribel has absolutely no reason to stay here. At that point, keeping her in Mini Mayoress feels like actively holding her back. Finally, Wolfboy. Ruff's exclusive vocation sounds cool on paper, but in practice it is wildly inconsistent. The let loose ability can be useful sometimes, but Ruff simply has better options elsewhere once you look at the full vocation lineup. Compared to something like the hero's starter vocation, switching out of Wolfboy becomes an easy and obvious choice. The vocations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Luminary, Armamentalist, Monster Master, Pirate, Mage, Martial Artist, Warrior, and Fledgling Fisherman. This is where Dragon Quest VII Reimagined starts to feel really good. B-tier vocations are the backbone of your progression, the ones that quietly do a ton of work without demanding the spotlight. You might not build your entire endgame around them, but you absolutely feel their absence if you skip them. Luminary is the definition of a comfort pick. It is a pure support specialist loaded with buffs and debuffs that make every fight smoother. Once you slot a Luminary into your party, it becomes very hard to imagine playing without one. It does not steal the show, but it makes everyone else look better, which is honestly the highest compliment a support can get. Armamentalist is where things get spicy. This hybrid warrior and mage setup works against almost any enemy, regardless of resistances or gimmicks. It brings consistent damage, flexibility, and a satisfying sense that you always have the right tool for the job. As an offensive vocation, it is just a joy to use. Monster Master can feel a little risky because of its chance-based skills, but when it works, it really works. There are some fantastic situational uses here, especially when you pair it with a more reliable support vocation. Think of it as controlled chaos that rewards players willing to embrace a bit of randomness. Pirate is simply fun. It takes the best parts of Sailor and Thief, smashes them together, and creates a physical offense vocation that thrives in longer fights. It has stamina, utility, and enough variety to keep combat interesting. If you enjoy consistent pressure rather than big flashy moments, Pirate delivers. Mage earns its spot by doing exactly what it promises and doing it well. Mage's Rage guarantees spell criticals. It has oomph, and there is very little to complain about. With Moonlighting allowing characters to diversify more freely, Mage stays relevant from early game all the way to the end. Martial Artist is all about reliable brutality, the critical stance. Let Loose guaranteeing critical hits is always valuable, no matter the situation. On top of that, the huge boosts to strength and attack power make it perfect for physical Moonlight combinations that hit like a truck. Warrior is straightforward but effective. It is a strong early game option and remains excellent for grinding metal enemies, which alone gives it lasting value. Sometimes simple power and consistency are exactly what you need. Finally, Fledgling Fisherman, the hero's unique starter vocation. Ocean's Devotion shielding each ally from one attack is deceptively powerful, and the skill set is solid enough to stay useful later on. It might start as a tutorial vocation, but it definitely earns its place in the B tier lineup. The vocations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Sage, Gladiator, Paladin, and Priest. Now we are officially in the things are going very right part of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. A-tier vocations are where your party stops feeling experimental and starts feeling intentional. These are the roles that define most strong team comps and quietly carry you on their shoulders all the way toward the truly broken stuff. Sage is pure magic dominance. It masters both offensive spells and healing, which already makes it incredible, but then you add the Tucus Pocus Let Loose perk that doubles spellcast and everything gets ridiculous. With the right buffs active, Sage turns into a walking disaster event, deleting enemies or saving the party in huge dramatic swings. Gladiator is the gold standard for physical damage. Falcon Slash, Metal Slash, and Multi-Slice cover almost every combat scenario you care about, from bosses to metal enemies. Its Let Loose ability trades defense for an absurd spike in attack power, and honestly, things usually die so fast that defense stops being a concern anyway. Paladin is proof that simple does not mean weak. It is a tanky support vocation with access to healing, and it just works in almost every situation. You stick a Paladin on the front line, let them soak hits, patch people up, and suddenly fights feel far less stressful. And then there is Priest, the vocation you never regret leveling. It is the essential healing role, universally useful on basically any character. The Let Loose ability fully heals the party, revives fallen allies, and cures all status ailments in one go, which feels like hitting a reset button on bad situations. If Dragon Quest VII Reimagined has a safety net, Priest is it. The vocations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Hero, Druid, and Champion. This is the point where Dragon Quest VII Reimagined stops pretending to be balanced. S-tier vocations are not just strong, they feel unfair in the best possible way, like the game quietly handed you the developer's favorite toys and said, have fun. If your party reaches this tier, you are no longer surviving fights, you are deciding how stylish the victory is going to be. Hero sits comfortably at the top as the ultimate vocation. It has everything you could possibly want. Omni Heal for absurd sustain, Giga Gash for devastating damage, and Kazing with a 100% success rate so death becomes more of a suggestion than a threat. Add multi-heal into the mix and you get a role that blends top tier offense and support better than anything else in the game. Druid is the spellcaster's dream come true. It brings a massive arsenal of powerful offensive magic alongside genuinely useful support spells, making it dominant in almost any encounter. Maribel in particular feels tailor-made for this vocation, turning her into an absolute magical menace who can control fights from start to finish. Champion rounds out the S-tier lineup as raw physical excellence. It fuses the offensive brutality of Gladiator with defensive reliability of Paladin, creating a vocation that can soak hits and dish out terrifying damage at the same time. If you want a frontliner who never feels like a liability, Champion delivers every single time. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.